144.8. It was like 144.75 or something kilos. That's great news. If it stays off, it's particularly good news because yesterday after dinner, there was a community dinner that I didn't get to last night. I didn't have the energy, and it was really warm outside, so we decided not to push me. But there was someone had baked a batch of gluten-free bickies, with people like me in mind. So Graham brought me back a chocolate chip bicky, which was lovely, and I had the calorie budget for it, so I made him weigh it. And it was both loving and thoughtful because he had one not knowing they were gluten-free and was really impressed because he didn't realize. That's the highest compliment from my husband. I couldn't tell it was gluten-free. Yeah, and so he brought me one, but he brought me one. He didn't bring me heaps, which is very helpful. And yeah, it was lovely. So I'm really thankful that like looking at and eating the chocolate chip cookie didn't like make my weight today rebound upwards. It's still early days. We'll see if this is even working. But I've been thinking about temptation because yesterday something interesting happened. We had this closing ceremony for this for the summer intensive that is part of the organization that my husband and I belong to and work for. And as part of that, there's beautiful afternoon tea. My husband does afternoon teas and that sort of thing. He puts a lot of thought into these things and does them very well. And there's separate gluten-free table for those who have allergies, and he tries to look after everyone with allergies and food dietary things. So I knew this was happening in the afternoon. I didn't know if I was going to have the energy to attend until probably like half hour before the event. But I made it in the end. The beautiful thing was that because I'd had such a nice, filling lunch, full of all those beautiful vegetables, I wasn't hungry when I went to the afternoon tea. I'd say that's unusual for me. I'm normally almost always hungry. Hunger is something I've learnt to live with. I've learnt that, like, I think it's Michael Mosley says, hunger comes in waves. It doesn't just keep building and building. So I've learnt that. I've done diets where I've been extremely hungry all the time, or I've had to fast. So hunger is, just a good old friend that is by my side. I think throughout my life, I've never really known, people say, eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full. I've never really known either of those sensations very well. And research has shown that people who have the obesity gene often have different signals for hunger. Their signals for hunger, the hormone signals, are much, much stronger than in other people. And the signals for being full are much, much weaker. So, yeah, I've experienced that for sure. So I'm really grateful because I'm starting to feel like, oh, I'm not hungry. I'll take that. It's a pleasant feeling. The other thing I was thinking about was temptation. So I had a friend recently who posted on Facebook that she was struggling with alcoholism, and she prayed for God to take away her desire for alcohol. And so I find that quite inspiring, and I've decided to do the same. So I've been praying that God will take away my desire for foods that are bad for me. I think this is, like if you have any challenge with having your body respond, or even immorally you respond to things that are not good for you, not God's best for you, then it's a good prayer. Take away my desire. I think of that hymn, the take away our love of sinning, pure and spotless, let us be. Yeah, so that idea of, it does take help beyond me, beyond my control, to take away the desire to just eat whatever is easy and accessible, and even if I know it's not good for me. Again, gentle with myself. Sometimes when you're really sick, that's what you have to do. But I'm grateful that God's been giving me energy to enjoy putting food together and things too. The other thing about temptation is I'm really glad Graham brought me one cookie and not a whole lot, like I said, because one of the things about temptation is you can't be tempted if something's not there. Like, you're only tempted when you think of it or if it's there in your face, which is why they say we live in such an obesogenic environment, because, where can you go where there's not temptation via really great marketing for things, signs all around us, advertisements that come on right when you're feeling hungry, all those things. So, but you can't be tempted if something's not there. And I remember my dad years ago joking that he was going to write a book about the no-see diet. If you no see it, no eat it. You can't see it, you can't eat it. So his thinking was just don't buy it, just don't keep it in the house. And actually I'm like, there's a lot of wisdom there. And then, like, a couple of years later, I heard this interview on the radio with this woman who does research into dieting, and she has this this book called Secrets from the Eating Lab, which I immediately went out and bought. So one of the things she found in the book was that, or in her research, was that the more hidden things were, the less tempting they were. So, like, one of the experiments I remember was like with some lollies on people's desks, and if you put it in a bowl, like right where it was accessible, people would just mindlessly eat out of it. If you put that same bowl, if you covered it, so it was one of those jars where you had to take the lid off, people ate less. If you put it in a drawer, people forgot about it. And if you put it across the room so people had to walk to it, it hardly ever got touched. So there's something to this. So it is one of the strategies I use, is I just don't keep things that I know are bad for us in the house. Sometimes that backfires because you can still go out and get them. That's the society we live in. And particularly if, we're really tired and really worn out, we might end up going, out for takeaway or something like that. So it is one of those strategies. Anyway, so temptation, I would say God is answering that prayer, and I'm grateful. And again, I don't know if this rainbow regime will work, but it's been fun so far, and I hope this isn't just all water that I'm losing. Time will tell.